Welcome back. It's time to prepare for the season. Our dormant garden is waking up and ready to bloom. Today we will talk about pruning, pest prevention, and some of the tasks that we have to do to set the stage for a lush and green garden. So let's go. First, let's start with pruning our fruit trees, such as apple or plum trees. We do this in the heart of winter. While these trees are dormant, this really helps because you don't want to be pruning your trees while they're blooming in the springtime. And you don't want to do it when it's too cold outside, so you kind of have to time it very carefully. You make sure that you do your cuts. What you're doing is you're removing any dead, disease, or damaged wood. That's fairly straightforward. But like you see here, we're also removing large branches that are producing fruit that are out of reach. So when you step back and you look at your tree, look at the shape of it and see where are the branches kind of pointing. You should also remove anything that's called like a water sprout or a suckers. Usually they're at the bottom of the tree. You should remove this because they're taking energy from the tree from producing more fruit for you throughout the season. Also step back, look at the tree, look at the overall shape that you are trying to accomplish. You may need to remove a few branches here and there, but remember, be careful. Less is more in this case. You need to use the right tools when you're pruning. Your bypass pruner will be one of your main tools that you're going to use to cut some of the smaller branches that you can reach that are very close to you. Your saw is your next one. Your pruning saw is very useful to cut larger branches. And then you're going to have your loppers. Your loppers really help you reach up higher to get some of the bigger branches. Now that we're done with pruning, it's time to apply organic dormant oil to our fruit trees. Dormant oil is a natural oil that is the gardener's ally to fight against overwinter pests. During the winter and the fall, pests seek refuge in the bark of the trees, laying dormant and waiting for the spring warm season to start their life cycle. Applying dormant oil during that time really helps suppress these pests before they have a chance to damage your tree. What is dormant oil? Dormant oil is basically a lightweight vegetable oil or mineral oil. And why is it called dormant oil? It's because you apply it when the plant is dormant, rather than, of course, when it's in full bloom. If you had an infestation of caterpillars, you can use dormant oil spray on your tree or on your woody plant to prevent the eggs from ever being hatched in early spring. Dormant oils are thick kind of oil that will coat the eggs and suppress the insect from ever hatching. Mites, scales, and other insects are really prevented by using dormant oil. Follow the instructions on the box, of course, when you're using it. Make sure that you spray every nook and cranny on the tree. Pests tend to hide in the smallest of crevices. The process is simple. Make sure you put your gloves on. I didn't do that in the process here that I'm showing, but make sure you have your gloves on or any protective glassware while you're spraying. Now make sure you do not spray while the plant is in bloom. Trees should not be sprayed during that time because if you do, you will lose all your bloom and all your potential fruiting for the season. Another way to protect our trees is to apply some pest barrier on the tree trunk. Okay, you need to prevent the caterpillars in any way that you can from ever getting to your tree and decimating it. You can use tanglefoot to do that. It's basically a sticky substance that you wrap around the tree to make sure that the caterpillars don't make their way out. You can use something as simple as a cloth, wrap it, and put some tanglefoot on it. Remember, you can also use duct tape. Duct tape can also be taped around the trunk with the sticky part of it sticking on the outside. This will prevent any caterpillars from ever making their way up to your tree and eating your branches. Now we're going to give our thornless blackberries a pruning by removing last year's fruiting canes. This is a great way to make sure that our blackberries for this year are going to be lush and have lots of fruit on them. Thornless blackberries, unlike their thorny cousin, produce fruit on the second-year-old canes. So we're going to focus on removing the canes that bore fruit last year. The old canes are easy to spot. They're either gray or really brown and red. I'm putting the little X's here, you can see the difference. Those are the ones that we're going to focus on removing. Now you're going to hear the term prima case. This is simply a term saying the new growth that didn't produce fruit, and then flora cane, which is the second year cane. That's the one that we want to keep, that's going to produce fruit for us this year. As you go through, make sure that you use a sharp pair of pruners so you don't damage any of the green stalk that's going to produce fruit for you. I am going to go through and clean out anything that is old there. I'm cleaning out the whole area overall. You can see there's a pretty drastic change here now that I'm done cleaning. I've only left really only the green canes available to now produce fruit for me for this coming year, I should say, not next year, but for this coming year. I'm comparing here for you. You see, this is where we started with the mess of the brown and the reds, and I've only left the green ones. The next step you're going to do is go over and kind of prune some of the branches. Just like any other fruit trees, they get top heavy. Berries will get very heavy at the top. Just remove them at the node, leave a node, and then prune everything to about 4 to 5 feet tall. So just go around and then do that pruning and cleaning. And that way you'll ensure that your plant produce a lot of berries for you in the coming season and be completely loaded with blackberries. Now, while you're in the garden, keep an eye out for your garlic and overwinter onions. Make sure those little green tips are coming out of the soil. Monitoring your garlic and onions over the winter is a simple but crucial task. As you go around the garden, have a look at your garlic that you planted last fall. Also look at your onions and see how they're doing. When you go around, you'll see some beautiful green tips coming out for your garlic. They should look very nice and healthy. Have a look also at your onions to make sure that they're coming out of the ground perfectly and that they look nice and healthy. One thing you can do this time of year is to consider adding some fertilizer. Make sure it's bio, of course. You can look at adding some blood meal. That's very high in nitrogen. That will really help your little garlic and onions. You can also look at some compost doing that. So you do have some options as to what you can add. Anything that you add, make sure you mix it well around the plant, mix it in the soil, loosen it up a little bit while still being careful that you don't damage the roots of your new plants. Whatever you add is really going to benefit your garlic and your onions, and you'll end up with a great bounty come July and August. Okay. Happy gardening!